Hi and welcome to LightroomTV. In today's video for Lightroom, I'm going to be taking you through how I've created this effect, which I've named the retro baby look. We're going to take you through step by step how to create it from the initial photograph, and I've also made a free preset available that'll be available in the description below, so you can just download that from our website and you could use that and recreate this effect with one click. But if you'd like to know more on how to create it for yourself and how to get creative and make it your own variation on this, then let's stick around and I'll take you through step by step for the entire process. So if we take a look at the starting image, you can see it's already a very nice image, and it's one that I've downloaded from a stock library which you can download yourself. But what we're going to do first of all is just tidy up the image itself, just to get rid of those little blemishes that we have, little bits of dry skin and things along those lines that help to make sure that the end result is the best we can get it. So let's just zoom in and you can see we've got a couple of little marks. Now I'm going to go crazy with this. I'm just going to take out some of the ones that are most noticeable. So we're just going to come up and choose the spot removal tool or press Q on the keyboard, and we're just going to come over and we're going to take those most noticeable ones straight out of the picture. So let's just quickly do that. I'll quickly run through and just make those changes, and I think I'll just undo that. A couple around the lip and on the cheek. That'll do. One more. Okay, so we've got rid of some of those little blemishes. Like I say, it's the little details that are most important. So the first thing we want to do is go through, like I do in all these tutorials, and I'm going to take you through step by step through each of the panels in order of the usage. So we're going to expand the basics panel out first of all. And what I want to do with this is I want to take the contrast and just bump that up ever so slightly to give us a nice definition between the dark areas and the light areas in the image. I'm not going to go crazy with this. I'm just going to bump it up by about 20 to 25. Again, this is dependent upon the image that you're working on. It's a good starting point for this. But adjust it, experiment, see what works really well for you. We're going to take the highlights, we're going to drop those down. So I'm just going to take those down to around about, probably around 24, 25, somewhere around there. That'll do for me. And the next thing is we're going to take the clarity. Now the clarity is great if you want to increase the contrast between those light and dark edges, but if you use a negative value, it actually gives a nice soft focus effect. Now again, I don't want to go crazy with this, but I want to just give that sort of that glow to the little baby's face. So let's just take that and drop it down to about -50. And you can see that now gives it a really nice soft rosy glow. We've got the eyes are the most intense focal point of this image, and we're going to take a look at treating those after we started applying this effect. We're just going to brighten those up a little bit to get that nice little bit of contrast in those as well. So the next thing I want to do is vibrance is great for working with things like skin tones and things. So I'm going to boost that, and we're going to take that up quite high to about +70. Now, even though that looks a little bit crazy and the baby looks like it's got too much of a suntan, we're now going to take the saturation and take that almost all the way down. So we're just making sure that the skin tones, the warm tones of the image, they shine through when we desaturate everything. So they're the ones that become the focal point of the image itself. So let's take that down to around about 75, 80, somewhere around there. So we just end up with a small hint of color left in there, nothing too much, because we're going to use the split toning to bring in the colors that I want. But this is a good starting point. So we're going to come down to the tone curve next, and we expand that out, and just making sure that you're in the point curve mode. So again, if you're not sure how to do that, where you've got the little icon on the right hand side of the panel, you can see that allows us to switch between the two different modes. So make sure that's checked, so we've only got the histogram available to us. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a basic S curve. Not too much. We're going to come down into the darker parts of the image. We're going to click to put a point in there. And we're going to do the same then up in the sort of the lighter areas of the image. Click to put a point in there. And now we're just going to adjust this ever so slightly to give us that S curve. And that's going to make sure, oh, didn't want to do that. That's going to make sure that we've got that contrast between the highlights and the shadows. So you can see that now, just making sure we've got that we want it. It helps emphasize the baby's face, so drawing attention to that even more so now. So you can have this nice little glow to it. So there we are, we're almost to the end of this result. So the next thing I want to do is come down to split toning. And with this, we're just going to add in a little bit of color to add some warmth back into the overall image itself. So where we desaturated it, we just got a little bit of color left in the sort of the skin tones. We're just going to emphasize the overall coloration of the image to give it a bit of warmth. So to do that, I'm going to use the highlights and the shadows. I'm going to take those into the orange and yellows just to give that nice warm rustic color back into it. So I'm going to take this up to around the 50 mark. That's going to take it into probably the orange area, orange to yellow colors. And we're going to do the same then with the hue, but we're going to take this a little bit lower so we can retain the shadows in the more warm colors again, so they're a bit more orange. So we'll take that to around about 38 to 40, somewhere around that point. And now we can mix those with the saturation sliders. I don't want to get crazy with this. I'm going to take the saturation up to just positive 10. And we're going to do the same with the shadows, but we're going to take that up to 6. So it just gives a little bit of warmth into the image itself. So you can see we have this sort of sepia tint to it. So if we just turn that on and off, we can see before and after. It's subtle, but it makes that difference to the image itself. So next up, we're going to come down to the effects section, and I'm going to take the vignette. And again, this is to taste. I'm going to take this probably around about -40 just to give us that sort of darken around the edges. Again, just to make it draw attention to the baby's face and make that the focal point. And the dehaze is great for things like this, because what we can do is if we use a positive value, we'll get rid of the haziness in the image. But if we use a negative value, much the same as with clarity, in lesser amounts though, we can create a little bit more of that glow, that healthy glow. So let's just take that down to about -5. Like I say, I don't want to go crazy with it, so we now have this lovely sort of glow around the baby's face, really pulling the attention into that. So the last thing I want to do with this now is I just want to deal with the eyes a little bit, because they look a little bit dull to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and zoom in on the baby's eyes. I'm going to come back up and we're going to use the adjustment brush, and we're just going to use the iris enhance option. So if you don't see this on yours, all you need to do is where it says effect, click on the 2 arrows, and you'll see we have a whole range of different options available in there. So we're going to use this, and we're just going to tweak this to taste. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to just simply paint over the eye, and that's going to create a sort of mask effect that will then take on any of the effects that we use inside this panel. So if I take my mouse over the circle, you can see we can now see the area that we've got masked off. And all I'm going to do is come down to the second eye and do exactly the same thing, so we know we're dealing with both eyes at the same time. Now with something like this, I'd recommend it's worthwhile zooming out if you can. So we'll just zoom out to the image, and we can easily achieve that with a keyboard shortcut of Control and minus. That allows us to zoom out. So we now have the eyes selected, so we can now treat those the way we want. So we're going to go in and we're going to worry about setting these the way I want to do it. So I'm going to take the clarity up a little bit just to really boost that contrast between the edges. The highlights, I'm going to boost that up just to sort of make the eyes just a little bit brighter and whiter. The contrast, we'll take that a little bit because I don't want to make them look too sort of abnormal. We can take the contrast if we want to and reduce that, and you can see that has quite a strange effect on it, but you know, adjust it to the way that you think it works for the image that you're working with. And we're just going to do the same with the whites. We're just going to boost those up a little bit so we have a nice level of contrast there, and I'm going to go with that. So I'd spend more time normally. I'm going to take the sharpness before we do and just take that up a little bit just to make sure the eyes are nice and sharp, and click on done. So there we go. So there's the final effect. So let's take a look at the before and after so we can see where we started and what we've ended up with. And there's the starting point, and there's what we've ended up with, which I think is quite a nice effect. So there we go. There's the end result. And like I say, if you want to download the free preset, the link is in the description below. So please feel free to download that, install that into Lightroom, and use this as the basis of your own edits. As with everything we do with presets, you're not limited to only using this in this example where we're using it with the baby. You can use it on anything as a starting point and then edit and adjust it to your heart's content to get the result that you're happy with. Well, I hope you found this video useful. I hope it's given you some skills and ideas into ways that you can use Lightroom when you're working with your photographs. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of the new content we add every single week. If you'd like to get access to this free preset and all of the other free presets we have available, simply visit LightroomTV.co.uk, and we have a section on there with free downloadable presets for Lightroom. If you do enjoy the tutorials we put out on this channel, please consider popping over to Amazon, where you can purchase the new ebook we've released on the Kindle store. 8 essential Adobe Lightroom techniques, where we go into detail about different techniques that every Adobe Lightroom user should really have in their arsenal. The link is in the description below, and your support is much appreciated. Well, until next time, take care.